It's now time for the Pitt Postgame Show here at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Chris Carter, Noah Hiles, your Pitt beat writers for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Read all the work at post-gazette.com. Find this show after every Pitt game when you're looking for the analysis from us, Noah Hiles, there in Raleigh after covering Pitt's gutsy 67-64 win over NC State, getting the Panthers back to 6-6, 500 in ACC play, 15-8. Overall. As always, the show is brought to you by Mike's Beer Bar, the best bar in all of Pittsburgh. Go to Mike's Beer Bar today for over 500 different available beers. 300 of those beers are local, 80 of those local beers available on tap. Noah, this was another impressive win, and I feel like we've said that a lot about the wins that Pitt has been tallying of late because they're doing it in different ways, and this one was even more different than any of the others, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like the last couple of games, not even wins, just a couple of games, Pitt didn't hit its stride until about 10 minutes in. And honestly, I feel like Pitt played its best basketball in the first 10 minutes tonight and then just kind of tried to hang on for the last 30. And there were some runs, obviously, in that. They built up a nice lead in the first 10 minutes, shooting, I think, like well into 60%, I think 61% early on from the field. They go on that run, that 8-0 run right before the end of the first half. They extend the lead to 13 points early in the second half, and then they just fall flat on their face. And to respond the way they did was impressive. I mean, this is a type of win that I don't think Pitt has had this year. And quite frankly, I don't know if they were capable of winning like this earlier in the year. And we're going to talk more about that, but just an all-around good basketball game. Carter, I'll let you start. What was your good?
My good's the maturity of this team because, like you said, this was a different kind of Pitt win. So many times when Pitt has won this year, it's been because their shooters been hitting and their confidence was in play, and that allowed them to outshoot the other team, and they played just enough defense to get over the top. This team did not shoot the lights out in this game. 42% from the field. We'll get to the three-point shooting in the next segment, but they needed in this game to close out with tough, gritty play against an NC State team that was pressing them all game. And Jalen Lowe said after the game, when you interviewed him, that we studied them, we knew that's what they were coming with, and we were ready for it. And they answered it. And you even look at how they played in this game. Like you said, they went out to a 13-point lead in the second half. That got dwindled down. And right around when that dwindling started to happen, like around the 15-minute mark, you see NC State go on a 9-2 run that gets it down to just a 3-point lead for Pitt. Pitt from the 15-24 mark to the end, they didn't hit a single jump shot. All their points were either free throws, dunks, layups at the rim, hard-fought, gritty baskets, or being great from the stripe. By the way, they were on fire from the stripe, hitting 18 of 20, and those two misses were Fede Federico. Oh, no, one was Blake, excuse me.
One was Blake, yeah.
One was Blake. But point being, this was a mature win because if this is Pitt maybe a month and a half ago, they even with the hot start, they fizzle. They don't find way. They keep trying to rely on outside shooting. They don't let their guards attack the rim or benefit from attacking the rim. And they did not go away from that. They still kept attacking. They still kept finding ways to score. And they did it just enough to keep their lead and keep playing tough defense throughout this because throughout the stretch, DJ Horn was on fire for NC State. He finished with 25, 5 of 10 from deep. But they were able to keep him quiet in the final minutes. That was a huge part of it too. Horn hit, I think, one jumper in the last 5 minutes of play after being red hot for the rest of the game. To me, this is a mature win. They're growing up. Blake Hinson told us months ago, our guards are going to grow up, and when they do, you're going to see it. And you asked him afterwards. He's like, "I told you guys, they're going to grow up. This is what I said was coming, and now it's here." And I have to say, it's mighty impressive to see these freshmen playing like mature, grown-up guards in the ACC.
Yeah, I mean, I think Keats said this on his Zoom call earlier in the week. He said, Carrington and Lowe, they're not freshmen anymore. They've seen enough of ACC basketball to be sophomores, and their play makes them look like sophomores. And you saw that from both, especially Lowe, and down the stretch. Just the foul shots, the decision-making, just really impressive. So I agree. The maturity, my good was attacking the basket. I thought that this team looked like its best self offensively, arguably all season, by just getting to the rim. And, they're never going to admit that they're a team that doesn't like to shoot from the outside. That's a strategy that they have. That's what they want to keep doing. They don't want to be afraid to take those open shots from the outside, and they create those looks from the outside. But I don't know. I mean, the way they were cutting to the basket too, Chris. There's one specific play that comes to mind in the first half where Blake made a move on the baseline and Bub had a beautiful cut right at the basket, right in the paint, and found him. Stuff like that. That's what's been missing.
Yep.
A lot. It's a lot of drive and maybe kick out to a guy in the corner, but why not drive and and create something there? Especially with a player like Carrington who has so much length and athleticism. It's a perfect combination. I loved how that looked. And I'll keep it moving here as we transition to the bad. On the note of scoring close to the basket, that was also a thing that worked well for NC State at times. DJ Burns had a big game, 19 points on 9 of 16 shooting. You look points in the paint. NC State won that battle 32-28. Once again, we've yet to see a full 40-minute game where Pitt played well defensively in the front court. Fede made some big stops. I'm not going to say it was complete poor effort there because Fede made some big stops. I mean, the final minute, he was Pitt's best player, which is kind of crazy to think of.
Great.
Because for the first 39 minutes, he certainly wasn't their best player. But I don't know. I mean, it's clearly going to be the area that every team that Pitt plays from now until the end of its season that gets targeted. They're going to go after Federico, they're going to go after Guillermo, and they're going to go after whoever else is played at that 5 spot. And I don't know what the solution is if you're capable, because clearly it's not Will Jeffress every time, because he didn't have much of an impact in this game. Yeah, that was a one-time thing, and that might be for other instances, when they're not playing a 300-pound big man. But, I mean, for this one, it wasn't luck. Fede stepped up in the moment, but just playing the odds or whatever, I mean, they were getting the looks every time. It just was a matter of not being able to finish. So that's still a glaring issue. Again, it's an issue where at the end of the day, they got the stop that mattered and they won. And that's what ultimately counts most in this sport. But there's no improvement there. We've talked about this for feels like months. And I don't see it getting any better, Chris.
I don't know what the answer is. Other than you get Fede Federico to take some performance enhancing drugs real quick and just he turns into the Hulk. Like some gamma rays or something. Like that's the only answer that I can figure out right now. You just see Fede, like first of all, Fede yelling like the Hulk would be really hilarious because he makes absolutely no noise.
Call him Petty Federico, P-E-D.
Petty Federico. I like the puns here. Anyways, my bad. We're joking entirely. My bad though was Pitt's 3-point shooting. As impressive as it was that they won without it, 5 of 21 from deep, among some of the worst shooting that they've had from deep, and it wasn't for the lack of good looks because. Right. Ishmael Leggett had 2 clean ones like at the top of the key and just clanked them. Blake Hinson even clanked them. They made 1 3-pointer in the second half. And that was Zach Austin off of a rebound. And again, this isn't saying that they're terrible for doing that, but they missed those 3-pointers. And in this game, they were able to fight through it. I think that when they play against some better teams, like how they played against Duke, they can't afford to have it then. But it's important to find ways to survive when you don't have it. And that's not something this team did. When you go back through all their Power 5 wins, they had, especially their best wins, 8 3-pointers, 10 3-pointers, 16 3-pointers against West Virginia. Like their wins that they've had like that, they've been able to hit from deep and it's helped pace their offense. But in the games that they haven't, hit a whole lot of 3-pointers in, they usually lose. When they played North Carolina, they lost by 13 because they only hit 5. When they played Syracuse, they lost by 11 because they only hit 5. Then they played Purdue Fort Wayne and they won with only 2 made 3-pointers, but that's Purdue Fort Wayne. This is the first time this season that they've won a game with less than 8 made 3-pointers in a game against a Power 5 opponent. That's impressive. And again, it's the bad is the shooting itself, but again, the good is that they survived without it, which is not something I think they could have done earlier this season.
Yeah. Do you want to get into the ugly, or shall I?
I'll start with my ugly. I thought a big part of what helped them in this game was their transition offense. They were able to get on fast breaks and score and stop NC State from doing the same. Pitt had a 16-4 fast break advantage in this game. And Jeff Capel talked about this as well. It wasn't just the fast breaks. It was how athletic they were and how much they forced NC State's big man, DJ Burns, to run. And they used ball screens. They kind of forced him to use his legs. And that got him off the floor a lot early. And then kind of like you said, down the stretch there late, Fede deserves credit for stopping him. But I think that part of the credit also should go to Pitt's game plan to tire Burns out. Because at the end of the game, he wasn't hitting those layups that he was hitting early on. And I think part of it is Pitt's athleticism and how much they ran past NC State in this game. And that's a really good sign for a young team in Pitt. So the ugly is just how ugly Pitt made it in transition points. Fast breaks was 16-4 advantage Panthers. What's your ugly?
Yeah, my ugly is they took the ugly road to get back to the bubble, Chris. I mean, this team, I'm not ready to say Pitt's on the bubble yet because it's not. It's still 500 in ACC play. It's never going to have a good non-conference win this season. But the road is a little clearer now. And it took a while. It's been a bumpy road, but this matchup next week in Charlottesville is enormous. It's between the two hottest teams in the ACC right now. And if Pitt can come out with that win, you could argue that's 2 victories over the top 3 teams in the ACC in their building when they're both playing really well. So I think that a win next week in Charlottesville puts Pitt back on the bubble. And then you look at what they have remaining after that. You got to play Louisville. You got to play. I mean, you still have a couple of challenging games. One in Winston-Salem, one in Clemson. But the schedule at large is against a lot of teams you've already beaten and a couple of teams who aren't that great. So I really like where this team's standing now as opposed to even where it was a couple of weeks ago when it was beating Duke and it was on that little run that it had. I don't think the bubble's far away. It took an ugly road to get there. It took a long time to get there, but they might be hitting their stride at the right time.
And that's something that you've asked Blake Hinson a few times now. How, when do you feel like you're hitting your stride? And he kind of admitted a little bit at the end there. He was like, we're kind of hitting it, but we can still play better. And I think he's right. If Pitt can get the complete game, I don't think we've seen Pitt play the complete game yet, where the inside offense and the outside offense is working while the defense is just locking it down against a good team.
Yeah.
And before, about even a few weeks ago, like even after that Duke win, I was like, I don't think this team has one of those type of wins in them because they were just too inconsistent on so many different things. And to get there, you often need to show that consistency. In different parts of your play, you need to show that you could be consistent shooters on the outside. You can show that you can consistently score on the inside, defend where you need to defend. They're starting to do all those different things at different times. Right. If they can play a big game, and this is where I'm not saying that they're destined for the tournament, but what this team might need is if they finish strong, they have 8 games left. They're 15-8, 6-6 in the ACC, right? If they can win 6 of those last 8, they'll have 21 wins going to the ACC tournament. I would presume that with 21 wins, they'd have 12 conference wins there. They would at least get a first round bye in the ACC tournament. If you can win that first game and then match up with a Duke or a UNC, and then you play that perfect game in that moment and get a second really good ACC win on a neutral court, that might be the thing that puts them in the tournament. I still, like you said, they have an uphill climb, but if they can finish strong and then get that really big win against one of the top 2 elite teams that everybody agrees are elite in the ACC, that might be the way to punch their ticket. Is finding that perfect game at the perfect time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, like I said earlier, there's a vision here. And there's actually multiple paths. You know, if they go 7-1 for the remainder of the regular season, they probably don't need to win in the ACC tournament. Yeah. You know, they probably don't. They're probably going to Dayton at the very worst, but
yeah.
And it doesn't seem impossible because, again, your tough remaining games after Charlottesville, it's Clemson, a team you took down to the wire, and a team that's not – I mean, they just beat North Carolina, but it's been hot and cold over the last couple of weeks. And Wake Forest, a team that you've already beat. Like, it just seems like a lot of stuff is falling in place, and we'll see how it goes. We've got about a month until this regular season wraps up, and it will be a fun one. Carter, any final thoughts?
Just that I'm excited to see how this team continues to progress. You know, the guards are growing up. I think even Ishmael Leggett has figured out, you know, even though he couldn't hit his 3-pointers in this game, he's figuring out how to finish at the rim more consistently. And you know, Fede, you know, he's still, there's times where he gets beat, but he's not letting that overwhelm him, and he's sticking to it, because if he had let it, he could have fouled Burns late in the game there and committed, you know, some dumb penalties that could have put him on the line or gave NCC a chance to score. Instead, he made the right plays in the right moments. They're doing the right things. It'll be an exciting team to cover. So we'll have all those angles here for you at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, post-gazette.com, to read all of our work. He's Noah Hiles. I'm Chris Carter. This has been the Pitt Post Game from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Find us on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to this channel to get all the daily content that comes out from all of our Pittsburgh sports writers here at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Pitt has the weekend off, but they're in Charlottesville Tuesday for another huge road ACC matchup against Virginia. Both of us will be at that one. We'll see you there on the Pitt Postgame Show right here from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.